A piece came in for me to answer some questions around market research, book publishing, trends for 2025, and so on. And I don't know if they'll publish my answers, but I wanted to share them with you because I think there's a profound lesson on attention, influence, and orbit. How do you get attention? How do you leverage that attention to influence people and then keep them in your orbit of influence so that you can continually influence them, with one of those influences likely or possibly being they buy all of your stuff a lot. So the questions were around the literary it girls, so to speak. The characters would be Candace Bushnell, Cecilia Ahern, Otessa Moshfegh, and Sally Rooney. These are considered marketable characters. Some of their books have been turned into films that have done very, very well over the last few decades. And the question started off with, why are these literary it girls commercially viable? Why have they been as such for the last several years? And I wrote, these authors have all read the zeitgeist by creating narratives that reflect contemporary, postmodern female experiences. Their novels are both an escape and a mirror. They're hyper-memoirs. I'll say that again. They're hyper-memoirs, meaning they are extreme memoirs, or they're exaggerated memoirs, or they're all the things about a memoir and then the density of those aspects of a memoir increased. They're the stories that people would absolutely dread to have, yet dream to have at the same time because of the drama, because of the excitement, the intrigue, the uncertainty, the shock and horror and terror and beauty and triumph, the temptation, lust, and romance of life. Living vicariously. They're hyper memoirs. When it comes to writing your own fiction, this commercially viable fiction, if you want to do that, or short stories, I want you to think about them in that way. Another question asked was, how is the performative nature of BookTok helped Rooney's rise? And I said, BookTok makes authorship and reader connection a public performance art, and user-generated content plays a part. Rooney's novels became cultural touchstones through viral videos and discussions with reply after reply after reply after reply. The nested feature keeps viewers consuming content about the content they consume. So you know how you can do these, I think they're called stitches on TikTok. I'm not super active there in terms of engaging with other people's stuff, but you'll see someone will reply to a video by recording. They'll take an excerpt of it, or they'll do like a reaction video, but then there will be someone reacting to a reaction to someone else's reaction of the original content. So now you're 4 reactions deep. This is what I mean by the nested feature. Someone can do a stitch of someone else's content, but that person's content is a reaction to another stitch that they saw. You see how this could go? People can get lost in it. That's attention. The more people who talk about the people who are talking about what you're talking about, the more attention your content is going to get, because it looks like everyone's talking about the people talking about everyone who's talking about you. If you're not using social media to sell books, you are just, wow. It seems like BookTok is largely female, or at least feminine. Even the male creators and male consumers and content characters over there, they're feminine in nature. The sort of OMG, yes, queen, literary it guy type of vibe you'll see from content over there on BookTok. So I think this is important to understand. The sort of did you read what this person just said? Did you hear what they just said? Right. So I see people will often they will read their material. They'll read their books. They'll do book readings, sort of a live audiobook narration, sort of a live book signing and reading. It's quite smart. Can a literary it girl rise without being a hit on TikTok? Was another question. Yes, if they have an audience that they already own that they've built up elsewhere. But a new author with no street cred needs word of mouth, and BookTok is the place for women authors to find it. Final question, final answer. Rooney's novels often explore loneliness. Why is this theme so resonant with young people? Okay, this is what I want to hone in on. Remember I said that it's an escape and a mirror. It's a hyper-memoir. If you're familiar with the authors over on X, the male authors, Zero H.P. Lovecraft is one of the characters. Zero H.P. Lovecraft and Delicious Tacos. Just like a taco supreme. It's just like a crunchy beef taco. I don't know. But those two anonymous authors, for men, absolutely nail the male experience in the postmodern age. And on the same topic as Rooney's novels with loneliness. So I wrote about Rooney here to this reporter. Because our generation is hyper-connected, yet profoundly alone. We can reach and be reached by more people than ever before, and yet most of us have fewer relationships than at any time in our species' history. According to Dunbar's number, our brains are designed to maintain 150 personal relationships. Many of us meet that many new people in a day. That's in person, but of course also largely online. So we're overwhelmed by human attention, yet often fail to experience meaningful connection with reciprocity in those relationships. Without relationships, we are without social identity. We are alienated. Naturally, we want to find stories that mirror our experiences. I think also that this connecting so that we have surface level connection with so many new people, and yet our depth is lacking. That is often how romantic relationships and lust play out, where people will have a grossly large body count, and yet relationship count is 10 to 20% that number. How many relationships do you actually have with those people? That's dark. And yet that's how it is across everything. There's so many opportunities that vie for our attention, and yet the pursuit of any one of them to any meaningful degree, the focus, the density, to use that word again, is so little, is so lacking, respectively. And it's not just with romance and the bedroom. It's with social relationships. It's with work. It's with family, where someone will have a person in their life who is their biological parent, and yet they have possibly half dozen to a dozen mother figures or father figures in their life. Sometimes it's people that don't even know them. So we saw the internet dad phenomenon happen. This is another issue that I think you might possibly commercially capitalize on. Scott Adams back in 2015 with How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. That's effectively a father's advice to his sons and daughters. That's timeless. And then in 2017, 2018, we saw Jordan Peterson come on the scene together with the popularization of the Joe Rogan Experience. These sort of like internet dads. And then there were communities. And then you see people pack the halls, and it's like they want to, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people want to hear from dad instead of their own dad, because the depth of that relationship is so lacking, because there's so many opportunities to take our attention. So what is going to allow you to get attention, influence, in orbit? Meaning you can hold readers' attention, build an audience, you can influence them to adopt your ideas, to share your work, and to buy your stuff, and then keep consuming your content, keep sharing your ideas, keep being impacted by you, keep buying your stuff, creating that orbit around them. It is relevance. It is describing their experience in a hyper-reality sort of way. This is what Delicious Tacos does, the anonymous author. He has, I think, Savage Tip of the Unicorn, something like that, is one of the compilations. Another one is Finally Some Good News, is another one of the books. These are collections of short stories, I believe. Well, Finally Some Good News, I think, is a novel, and the picture is a mushroom cloud. And while these aren't incel books and voluntary celibate books, these stories by Zero H.P. Lovecraft and Delicious Tacos, respectively, what they are is they're commentaries on more so relationship cells. rel cells, where they're relationally celibate, where maybe they can get a girl for a night, for a few weeks, a couple of months. But what he really wants is marriage and family. Beautiful house, 5 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, white picket fence, family dog, and a meaningful career in town on Main Street. And what's available to him is a $4,000 a month apartment, wage slavery surrounded by HR school moms and girl bosses who don't know anything relative about the work that he's doing. And all of the girls that they're seeing are in a similar situation. And it's a rat race. Remember the rat race concept that's spoken about quite a bit in the 80s and 90s. They're hyper-memoirs, these stories, where they're an extreme version of the malaise that many people are experiencing. That is what I want you to take away from this. Any novel that you write, even if it's set in a different time period, it's historical fiction, or it is science fiction, or it's fantasy, or it's a Western, or it's a mystery, whatever it is that you're writing about, what will get attention is if you're writing about things that everyone can relate to. Now, this is often described as being culturally relevant or something like that, which is a bit cringe in my opinion. But what you can do is, without using the silly language of our time, describing what the experiences are like. So if you have someone if you have a story that's set in Elizabethan England, then who is your likeliest reader for this? Who reads that kind of content? What are they going through in their life? Are they experiencing loneliness? Why are they wanting to escape in historical fiction? So then, what if you wrote a hyper-real version of your reader's experience? They would certainly relate to it. And also create a sort of a timelessness, a sense that, wow, people of the past, including my ancestors, have felt exactly what I feel today. That's resonance. That's relevance. That's recurring revenue.